So let's get into recruiting this weekend. What a weekend, huh? You're on mute, buddy.
Little amateur on the road here. I think we had one of the best weekends in the country. When you look around, we had 17 guys on campus for official visits. The list was absolutely loaded. I know some people, the climate has changed. And I talked about this on the roll-up yesterday. Kids just don't pop on visits like that. It's more of a business decision. A lot of these kids have other official visits lined up, and these official visits aren't based off of hype like they were in the past. These days, kids are going to take their time. We got a lot of recruits this past weekend that called the visit a 10. But nonetheless, kids going to want to go back, look at the business of it, do other business meetings, and make business decisions and not emotional decisions. So the game and the landscape is changing a little bit. But I do think it was a very fruitful weekend. We get into the details of it, but a good list. Good action. Shout out to the social media team, everybody at UF as far as media, the visuals, the activity, everything they put on. I thought was a good show. The chemistry of guys that they had on the visit, I thought it was strategic. Just overall good look. But let's get into the details of it.
Yeah, let's get into some of the kind of ancillary details, and we'll go over the players. So first off, shout out to the production team between the photo shoot and everything that they did with Swamp View. We had Tim Moore on a few months ago, who's the CEO of View Productions, and what they've been able to do from a production standpoint, from a video perspective, is incredible. And then shout out to the photography team. What they were able to set up looked incredible. The pictures looked incredibly good. Just overall really well done. I think that if you look to Tallahassee, 2 hours west, they were filming things with a backdrop and a blanket that they bought at Hobby Lobby on the ceiling. So when you compare the two, when you compare the excitement and just the overall feel and vibe and energy, you saw a lot of that this weekend. Then, of course, so we got to mention Maybach Billy.
He pulled the curtains back on the Maybach. I thought it was dope. I thought Billy kind of set them up as well with the slingshot. A lot of rival fans started acting like it was Billy's personal whip that he drove to the stadium to flex for kids. That wasn't the case at all. But, people started talking on socials, and it's like Billy was in tune with the timeline. The kids enjoyed that Maybach. If you watch Nick Saban's visit, a lot of kids show his 7 Maybachs and whatever vehicles he had. But I thought it was dope. What you thought about that whole part of it?
I thought it was beautiful. You could tell just by the chemistry that the players are having with the coach that they feel comfortable, right? Obviously, you're talking to a mid 40-year-old guy and a 17-year-old, and obviously there has to be that connection. But the way that they talked, the way that they were laughing and joking, you could just tell there was a level of comfort there that just seems natural. It just seems like there is that connection, and it does seem like Billy is somebody that's able to connect with the kids. We're never going to say that, Billy has the most charisma of any coach that's out there, or, might not be the most exciting guy when you see him go present or speak, but you can tell that there's a connection and that interaction between the players when they're there, and they felt comfortable. They were joking around, they're playing around, messing around with each other. So that to me speaks just as highly about how the visits went as much as, somebody saying post interview, oh, it went well. You saw it, in real life that they were having fun, that they were enjoying it, that they were connecting with the coach. So to me, that spoke more volumes than just, post interview hype and everything else.
Yeah, I do appreciate getting to see the visuals of it. And I'm with you. I had a take. I'm not gonna say that take, but I enjoyed seeing just the activity. The Dave and Buster's thing. Some people are like, "Oh, they took these kids to Dave and Buster's." I don't know if they realize these are kids.
Yeah,
I know it's like behind the scenes. People talk about the nightlife and these kids going out to partying, and that's the thing for some kids. But I think you gotta be able to be a people person and know what's right for what kid and their families are in town. Dave and Buster's was perfect for me. For what I saw, the kids they had a blast. And when I was 17 years old, if I could go to Dave & Buster's and win those dumb prizes for free and I don't have to spend my parents' money on it, that's a bet. I could go for gold.
Well, and Sugg, I think you make a good point. So a couple things. One, they went to Dave and Buster's for an hour before they went to dinner. It's not like they were at Dave and Buster's from 6:30 to 11:30 at night, right? So Dave and Buster's, if you're not familiar in Gaines, is in that new plaza with Spurrier. So they went to dinner. They rented out the entire restaurant for families and the recruits that were there, but they went for an hour. A couple things. One, like you said, Silk, their kids. Two, I'm willing to bet many of them haven't been to a Dave and Buster's, right?
Right.
It's a good hour-long activity. It's family friendly, right? I mean, you're looking to connect coaches, players, and families all in an atmosphere where they can go enjoy it. And there's just not a lot of places and things that you can do for an hour and a half. I don't know what you want them to do. Not going to take them out on a boat. You're not going to take them to a nightclub. You're not going to take them on a nature walk, right? So if you're looking for something to do for an hour where people can go down to a Devil's Mill hopper and go walk around for an hour, right? But to me, that's a perfect hour-long activity. Kids get to have fun. Kids get to hang out with one another. They get to show a little bit of the competitive side, and probably more than anything, just joke around. So I thought that was a perfect event. And also you need something to blow a little steam off. And, I don't know, it went out and I'll try to find it. We'll post it here in the YouTube. But that day is just chock full of things to do, from waking up to breakfast, to meeting, to tour, to meeting, to tour, to a little bit of time off, to then going to Dave and Buster's, then going to Spurrier's, then time with a coach's social or going out with your player host. So it's just a busy weekend. So I don't see anything wrong with going to Dave and Buster's. I don't think there's wrong with going out and having fun and doing, shit that kids enjoy doing, right? Like maybe you as a 40-year-old aren't going to go to Dave and Buster's, but I sure shit if, a 17-year-old was like, hey, here's a $500 gift card to go to Dave and Buster's, every single one of them would say, hell yeah, right?
Everybody turn down Dave and Buster's, man.
All right, well, let's get into the recruiting weekend in terms of those that made it on to campus. 5-star receiver and Ohio State commit Jeremiah Smith, 5-star defensive lineman David Stone, 5-star quarterback and Florida commit DJ Lagway, number 2 ranked safety Xavier Filsaime, Florida commit, top 5 edge rusher Jordan Ross, who gave the visit a 10, on 300 linebacker Adarius Hayes, on 300 tight end Jonathan Eccles, on 100 tackle Ethan Callaway, on 300 linebacker Chris Jones, on 300 defensive lineman LJ McCray, on 300 wide receiver Isaiah Williams, he's a Florida commit, on 300 defensive lineman Dalen Edmonds, he's committed to Texas A&M, 4-star cornerback Jalen Crawford, 4-star edge Kendall Jackson, 4-star defensive lineman DeAndre Robinson, 3-star offensive tackle Ori Williams, and 3-star defensive lineman Jaden Jackson. So Silk, let's just break this down in grouping. So we had the 3 5-stars, Jeremiah Smith, David Stone, and DJ Lagway. It does seem to me like all of them enjoyed their visit from what you could tell. David Stone, I know, is somebody that Florida really wants. I think he rated the visit a 10. DJ Lagway obviously spoke very highly, was interviewing with a number of folks right before before his time here. I think he was at an Elite 11 event, spoke obviously very highly about the recruiting that he's doing. But give us your take on Jeremiah Smith, David Stone, and DJ Lagway.
I heard it was inseparable. Jeremiah Smith's recruiting is probably going to go to the wire. You'll find mixed takes on his recruitment. I think it's open. It's going to be hard to beat Brian Hartline, but I think that kid is very open to different universities, no matter if he's committed to Ohio State. If he's visiting as many schools as he's visiting, he's definitely interested and curious in other situations. So I thought it was good. It's not DJ first time pulling up. They've been spending some time this offseason. Hopefully they could get together at a game or something this fall, but you just love to see DJ and Jeremiah building that chemistry between, one of the top receivers and top quarterbacks in the country. We'll see how it all plays out. Same thing with David Stone, seeing the visuals and the content on the social medias of them on the plane heading over to the official visit. Mm-hmm. That's what you want out of your leader and your quarterback, the head of the class, just to keep building chemistry with top guys around the country. David Stone is going to be one that we're going to continue to watch in the trenches, and also offensive linemen all the way together. Ethan Callaway was a guy that I was looking at on this visit. looking back just to get information on how it went, because that's a position that we're all going to be paying attention to this year. For me, I think we all should be paying attention to offensive line recruiting. But overall, I think he did a good job. I didn't expect neither one of those guys to commit at this function.
Right.
This is a long play. You keep building. You get these guys at a game with you. You see how the season goes, and you shoot your shot at the end.
Absolutely. Xavier Filsaime, the safety, obviously, all in for Florida. He looked like he was having a great time. Top 5 edge rusher, Jordan Ross, gave the visit a 10 out of 10. I really said Florida gave him a lot to think about. That's a guy that, Florida sits in a really good position for right now. A guy that Florida really wanted on campus, competing against a lot of the big dogs for. But you can tell there's something about that visit, something about what Florida was able to do to really get in his heart and mind. From Birmingham, Alabama, the number 33 overall player, the number 4 edge rusher, number 4 overall player in Alabama. Could be a huge get for the Gators, competing against Georgia, Tennessee, Auburn, a few others for him, but just an incredible player. Florida obviously left him with a lot to think about. Darius Hayes.
Also like with him, with my man, Jordan Ross, that they partnered with him with Kelby Collins, who's also a Bama guy, one of the top guys that Bama wanted last year, and we ended up winning that battle. So I like that they had him Kelby host Jordan Ross. I thought that was a good strategic move.
Absolutely. Darius Hayes, very much committed to the University of Florida, came on campus. On 300 tight end Jonathan Eccles. Florida, I know, is courting a number of wide receivers or tight ends, right now. And Jonathan Eccles seems near the top. I don't 100% know what that board looks like and is ranked right now for the Florida Gators. But obviously a guy that has continued to stay in touch with the Gators, committed to Tennessee right now. But for all intents and purposes, I know Florida did a really good job and has continued to do a good job in his recruitment. Let's see. I'm going to pull up the tight end offer list right now, because I know we've got a couple of other visits for the Gators over the next couple of weeks. So just give me 1 second here. So I know that Florida is also going to be hosting Walter Matthews, 6'7", 245-pound, ranked number 105 in the country over the next couple of weeks. That looks to be a Florida USC battle. Amir Jackson is another name to be on the lookout for, 6'5", 210-pound. Ranked 122nd in the country, tight end right now. That's a Florida and Auburn battle. Florida is very heavily leaning for him right now. So between those three, you have 3 players that are all within 27 spots of each other, all right around that 100 rank that Florida seems to be in a really good spot with. So between Walter Matthews, Amir Jackson, Jonathan Eccles, not sure how much research you've done on the 3, but do any stick out more to you than the other?
I love all 3. I like Amir Jackson the most, I would say. That's my guy. I think Miami just got into his recruiting. They drug their feet on offering, but I think they entered that space. He haven't set up an official visit with them at all yet, but that's one that just threw their hat into the mix. I always want to keep my eye on Miami, even though the stock's down. Ruiz is dealing with the feds, and your stock, your retirement's a day late. Tank. Yeah, a couple hours, slowing you down a couple hours from retiring. Yeah, but I just keep my eye on Miami. But I got Amir Jackson as my top guy on the board that I like.
Yeah, Florida obviously has a litany of players that are in that top 100 rank where Florida desperately needs some help and some athleticism at that tight end position. Florida hasn't been able to get really a top flight tight end. Even Kyle Pitts was a 3-star. Obviously, he turned into a top 5 draft pick in the NFL, but Florida, desperately needs some help in that tight end room, especially guys that are not just blockers, being able to go out and catch some passes in the flats. But be on the lookout for what Florida's got going on in the tight end room. On 3,100, offensive tackle Ethan Callaway, a guy that I know Florida is very, very high on. I spoke very highly after his visit as well, ranked as the 207th best player in the country from Lake Norman High School in Mooresville, North Carolina. 6'7", 300 pounds, LSU, NC State, Penn State, Florida, and Georgia are the top 5 there right now. That would be a big get. Florida desperately needs help on the offensive line. Ethan Callaway's a really solid player in my eyes.
No, a really good player. We'll see how it all plays out. But we need elite offensive tackles, especially. But we'll love some interior guys. But offensive tackles, you got to have elite bodies protecting elite arms like DJ Lagway. We'll see how it all plays out. We got 2 guys recruiting that position. So,
yeah,
my expectations are a little different on that spot.
Yeah. A few $1 million worth of salaries recruiting the offensive line right now. On 100, linebacker Chris Jones, guy that we put on commit watch, a guy whose name that I heard a few weeks ago was really close to committing verbally to the Florida Gators. Again, ranked the visit very highly. I know that there's a lot of trepidation about a potential Georgia visit for him, and if Florida lets him go visit Georgia, then what happens? Is Florida going to lose him? And I just don't think that's the case. I think Chris Jones has really bought into Austin Armstrong, Jay Bateman. I think in the next few weeks, Chris Jones will be the next member of this elite linebacker group that the Florida Gators have gotten. He's ranked as the 149th best player, number 15 linebacker, and put him with Graham and Hayes. And that's a stellar linebacking group that the Gators might be able to lock down here.
Yeah, it'd be an elite haul. He has an official visit with Georgia on June 16th, and he may do an unofficial visit by Michigan State to check out Mel Tucker and the boys. But I like where we at. I had him on commit watch for the last few weeks as well. I know we got Aaron Childs, another linebacker that probably not trending towards us, but like you said, we got two real good guys already committed, 2 elite prospects. If we could finish it with a trifecta, Jay Bateman would be absolutely in his bag, Dylan. So we'll see how it all plays out. These kids are going to take their visits, man. I keep saying this. Like, we had Chris Jones on commit watch for how long? You're not going to turn down a visit to Bama or Georgia. It's business. Like, kids are not committing because, the colors are orange and blue, and they had a good Dave and Buster's visit no more. And, the coaches did a good handshake and did a good TikTok video. That's not what's happening. Business is happening. So I don't expect kids to pop on visits like that. If you watch the trend, that's been slowing down the last couple of years since NIL dropped.
Yeah, since NIL dropped and since the ability to go visit and do official visits, during the summer, right? I don't know if most fans remember, just a few years ago, you could only do official visits during the season or right after the season before National Signing Day. So now kids have unlimited opportunities to do official visits. Schools aren't allowed to have unlimited official visitors. I think they're allowed somewhere around the 76 number total, but these kids are going to go take their visits. They're going to use this opportunity, especially during June, July, and August, where they don't have much going on. It's an opportunity to commit somewhere and do some visits during the fall. But these are also high school kids. So being able to go out and visit and see places that they may not otherwise, but ultimately evaluate their options. And like you said, so you throw NIL in there as well. There's going to be a lot of back and forth and a lot of things that these guys have to think about. I just don't see, and you don't see it across the board either. There's not a lot of schools that have a ton of commitments. A lot of them sit right where Florida is, somewhere between 7 and 11 visits. You're going to see a lot of players visit a lot of different schools over this time. And during that time, you're not going to see a lot of people pop off. And we're going to talk about that here in a second before we get Matt McCall on. But let's just finalize this list here. On 300 defensive lineman, LJ McCray ranked Florida's visit really highly as well. He's from Mainland. He's one of those 2 or 3 players that UF is recruiting from Mainland High School there in Daytona. The number 93 overall player, 6 foot, 6.5, 260 pounds, ranked the visit really highly. I think that Florida probably has him on commit watch in the next couple of weeks as well. What do you think, Sil?
Oh, definitely. I like where we stand. I don't know about a couple of weeks. I don't know what his time frame on the decision is, but I like where we stand with both mainland kids, him and Zay Mincy. I think Zay Mincy comes next week. I don't know if they're packaged. I don't think they're packaged or anything like that. I haven't heard that word. But like you said, we are one of the few programs that have offered all 3 of the guys at mainland. We'll see how it all shakes out. LJ McCray sound like, from everything I read at On 3 shot to Corey Bender and them boys over there, Zach, Nick, the whole crew. Yeah, Keith. What's up, Keith? Shout out to all those guys. But it sounded like LJ McCray had a blast. I think we've been leading his recruitment for a little while now. We'll see how it all plays out. I think most of these kids will end up deciding right before the season kicks off.
Yeah. Finalize this list. Isaiah Williams, Florida commit, the wide receiver. Florida's really high on him. Obviously, he was injured last year, but comes back this year, and I think he's going to have a big year. Dalen Evans, Texas A&M commit. Looked again to have a really good time. He's been committed to Texas A&M for quite a bit of time now. Let's see exactly when did he commit. Not as easy to look up. So he's been committed there for a while, has a picture of him in a Florida Gator uniform as his Twitter picture. I think it's a matter of when, not if, Florida might be able to flip him over. I know he's got a few other visits planned, but for all intents and purposes, another great visit for him. And then Jalen Crawford, 4-star cornerback. Silk, do you know much about Jalen Crawford? That's kind of a new name from Parkview High School in Liburn, Georgia.
Yeah, I was new to the name when I saw it on the visit list as well, but I do like what I seen out of the film. He fits Corey Raymond's body type, 6 foot, 6'1"-ish, lean, rangy, good wingspan. But it seems like he's building a nice relationship with him as far as the recruiting is going. I know he got Auburn, LSU, and North Carolina. So the schools after him are also impressive, but those are his visits that are lined up. He's going to visit Auburn on June 9th, LSU on June 16th, and North Carolina on June 23rd. He might do a trip to Miami. Miami got a lot of mites. I like Miami in the mite area this year. Yeah.
Like my stock share might reach $1.
University of Might.
Kendall Jackson, a guy that Florida is trending for, a guy that On3 has ranked as a 4-star, a guy I think that is still getting exposed to a lot of the football databases and stuff like that, the track recruiting. I know Florida's really high on him out of Buchholz High School there in Gainesville, has offers from Florida, Miami, Kentucky, UCF, Arkansas, a number of others. A guy that I think, if Florida wants, Florida can get 6'3", 245 pounds, seems to move really well. He's going to commit in August. So again, that's one of those things that if you look and say, hey, Florida is able to get a guy like him to decide that he's going to go to Florida, but he's going to wait. You can look and say, hey, Florida didn't get any commitments this weekend. What happened? And then you can see oh, maybe that visit was what put him over the top, and maybe he's going to get some free vacations out of this, right? But I don't think, and so let's just jump into this because it's been a topic of conversation. A lot of people kind of view the weekend as a failure because Florida didn't get any public commitments. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I set the tone before the weekend, even on Twitter. I did it on the show. I did it on Roll Up Network. I've said it. I don't know what people – this because if you say it afterwards, there's a spin. So, I just like to set the temperature. I already knew, the visits lined up. You got 17 very good recruits, So I like the activity that we brought in. Like I said, I like everything that was going on. But I didn't expect – I had a couple on commit watch, like Chris. We spoke about Dalen Evans. Maybe he flip on that visit just because of the momentum. So, we put out a possible watch list, but I said in my content, I didn't expect anybody to pop on these visits. These kids taking their time. It's business, man. I don't know what world you're living in. Like you spoke of the Buchholz kid. And that's a guy I think we're going to land. I don't want to ruin any kid's recruitment, but that's a guy I think we're going to land right before the season starts. But Kendall Jackson. But what are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? Let these kids take their visits. It's business. It's a lot of NIL money on the table. These kids are choosing something, and it shouldn't be based off of hype in a visit. Think about it. If you have your child, you take them on a visit to these weekends, you don't want to make a rational decision. You want to lead them to make wise decisions, to look at all the options, and then go from there. It's like buying a home. You don't buy the first home you walk into unless you just, a little delusional. But 9 times out of 10, you want to shop around, see what's on the market, do your CMAs, and then make a decision from there, man, based on everything. So that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, no, Silk, I 100% agree. And I think, we definitely said, hey, these are some guys that could be on commit watch. But, for me, I think that Florida did everything that you can do. Right now the visit calendar has changed very much than what it used to be. I go back a few years ago, right? You had limited opportunity, especially for most of these kids, not only in terms of the number of visits that they could take, and that was 5, but it was also during a pretty finite amount of time, right? You had 13 weeks. So if a kid was going to commit, they had basically 13 weeks in that time. And, they were only able to take 5. So you can imagine the law of numbers is going to say, hey, if I can only take a certain number of visits and I only really have this finite amount of time to do official visits, that there's going to be more that happens during that time. But with the recruiting calendar changing, with NIL changing, I think that there's just such a shift. And that's why you don't see a lot of programs blowing every visit out of the water with 4, 5, 6 commits the way that it used to be, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I worked, the recruiting office at UF, there was, some weeks that you'd get 5 guys after one weekend. Well, that's because they were only hosting recruits 7 weekends out of the entire year at the time, right? So it's just a different time. I urge everybody, it's June 5th right now, right? You're still a long time to go. I think the Florida did everything that they needed to do during that time. So we got Matt McCall. Go ahead.
My last take, some of these kids haven't done their due diligence yet either. And some kids have, and they can make a decision and pop on the actual visit, right? But if you haven't been traveling, your recruitment has taken off late, and you haven't made it. Like, look at Bowens. Bowens is taking visits still. He's committed to us, but he's still doing due diligence. So it's like, what do you want? You want a kid to commit and still take visits because he hasn't taken his full, gotten all the information from all the programs, or you just, you wait it out, let the kid take his visits. He'll pop when he's ready. But the weekend was definitely a success. Your expectations just need to change. It's not 2010 anymore.
Yeah. And then I do want to make a note. TJ Moore, a guy that Florida knows really high at the wide receiver position, did visit Clemson this weekend, according to our friend Keith Niebuhr over at On3. Does look to be trending Clemson's way. He has not committed just yet, but that is something to look out for. Florida still needs some help in that wide receiver room with recruiting. So